recording. Okay, our first question is like reverse pairs. So we are given an array of nums and we call I and j an important reverse pair if I is less than j and nums of I is greater than 2 times nums of j. And we need to return the number of such important reverse pair in the given array. Like you can see this 3, this greater than this one, and this second 3 is also greater than this one. So these are the two pairs. Similarly, if you see here, your this 3 is greater than this one, and 5 is again greater than 1, and 4 is also greater than 1. So there are 3 such pairs. And constraints, length of the given array will not exceed 50k, and all the numbers in the input array are in the range of 32 bit. Yeah. So how to proceed? Any approach here?
Hi, Shashank.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was looking at this question. I mean, just from a naive approach, I guess, that is like the complexity is really bad. It was like square log n. But yeah, I mean, I see like the merge sort idea and stuff. I'm not very clear about it. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to talk about naive approach or...
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was thinking that basically following this equation, right? We want to find the number in the array which is obeying this equation. So basically one way is if I start from the first number, right? I'm looking for a number which is kind of less than half of this number, right? Like if
can you annotate?
So, I mean, basically, I was looking at this equation like nums of I greater than 2 times. So that means, do you want me to screen share?
Yeah, sure. You can share.
Yeah, so you all can see my whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
So this was the equation. I'm saying if I'm given, what was the array like?
Okay, let me. Array is like here. Let me see.
Yeah.
So, the 1 3 2 3 1. 3 2 3 1. Yeah.
Basically, if I start from the beginning, right, I can start from beginning or end, either way. But if I start from the beginning, then I'm saying that, okay, for 1, I'm trying to find a number such that 1 is greater than 2 times that number, right? This is what the question. In other words, I'm saying that give me a number if I want to be even more specific. Like, this kind of gives me like keeps the space very open, right? Every time I have to calculate twice of the next number, then check if this equation is followed or not. So if I go by like first approach would be like literally order of n square.
Yeah. For every I you'll run the J and check that equation.
Yeah. So that is definitely, I mean, that is the simplest. The second thing I tried to refine it was, if I look at it, it's kind of a searching problem, you know. So when I'm at 1, I'm saying that if I just write this equation as this, nums of I divided by 2 greater than
nums of, okay.
Yeah. So J basically should be less than this, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for. So in other words, I can also say that at every step, I'm trying to find a number, like in this case, my number is 1. So I'm trying to find a number which is less than 1 divided by 2, which is like 1.
0, right? 1 divided
Basically,
by
yeah, starting from 0, find a number less than or equal to 0.
0, okay. But
Can be tricky. I can't go negative. I mean,
yeah,
let's take a simple case, but the idea was this, right? Something like this. And then I can, to kind of make this fast, I can sort, I can maintain a separate array where I keep the, this original array. So I keep like original index.
And the element at that particular index, right?
Yeah, like this would be 4,1 and
3,3.
yeah. And then I basically try to find the, this is my sorted array by value. Then some way I should try to find that number, like, where I find 0, then just look for all the numbers to the left. But, I mean, this itself also is not good because first of all, I have to sort them. So for each n, right? First of all, it will be order of n to iterate through the whole array. Then extra space for this sorted numbers, order of n. And then I have to do sorting, which is order of n log n.
Is there any benefit of sorting via values and not indexes, or vice versa?
Yeah. Your indexes I should always be less than j, right? So if you sort them, won't the order be?
No, that's why I'm saying that I'm maintaining extra space. So this is my new array, like sort of thing.
No, what I'm asking is that here you're sorting by indexes, I think, right?
No, I'm sorting by values, right?
Okay, so will there be any difference if we sort by indexes?
Are you asking that, let's say I find a value, then I have to also obey the condition that I is less than j?
Right.
Right. So for that logic, I was thinking that, once I find a value, let's say, for example, let's pick a value 3 here, right? If I'm looking for 3, then the number I'm looking for is less than equal to 1. Any value in this array which is less than equal to 1, right? Now, once I find that value, I check its index, it's 4, which is greater than my elements index. So I will add it to my result.
Okay, so you will iterate over all the possible values, and then if their indexes are appropriate, then you'll add, right?
Yeah, so yeah, right. So I'll iterate through the original array, and then in my new array, I'll do a binary search by value. And once I find a value which is less than this value's half, then I try to compare its index. Does that make sense? So let me take an example, actually, it's confusing. So if I'm picking 3, right, then I'm saying I need a value which is like going by this equation. I need nums of j, right, such that that value is less than the half of what I have, right? So half of this is 1.5. So I'm looking for a value, anything which is less than 1.5. So 1, 0, all of those will make sense. And this is my new set, and I see this value 1. And now I can't just pick it up because I have to respect the index constraint also. So then I check its index and stuff like that.
So for next, you'll check 2 by 2 is 1, right? Whether it is present in your this.
2 by 2 is 1. What do you mean?
Like when you go to the, you'll traverse the original array, right? So when you reach to the
Right.
yeah.
So in this case, I'm saying 2 by 2 is 1. So less than 1, basically I'm looking for, let's say 0, which is not current or something. Then yeah, but the point is, I mean, if we go by this approach, right, very early on, we realized that the complexity is really bad,
Right.
Extra space, sorting, and then binary search and stuff like that. So overall, the complexity comes out to be like order of some like n square log n.
Log n.
Yeah.
Right.
Super bad. So I was looking at solutions. It kind of talks about some merge sort based ideas, but I am, I'm looking forward to somebody if you can cover that or any other ideas.
Yeah, so in merge sort, it's like a normal merge sort. If you do, let's say the entire array is given to you, right?
Yeah.
So you just keep on splitting. First time you split, so first array will have what? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 2. So 1, 3 and 2, 3, 1.
1, 3, 2, and 3, 1, right?
So 5 by 2 you will do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 3, 1. Okay, and keep on. Again, you split this one, first array.
Right. So let's say
Yeah.
1 and 3, 2. Yeah.
And again, one more split, like,
Right.
yeah, now you can just check, like, you had a split on these two, 1 and 3, right? You check if ith pointer will be on I1 and jth
Yeah.
pointer will be on 3. Now you just check whether it suffices the condition or not. Like
Okay.
now,
So
yeah,
in this case, it doesn't.
it won't. Yeah, now it won't. So you can't. I mean, so you didn't get a valid pair. So you just try to merge them in a sorted way, like 1, 3. Yeah, again you check for the next like 2. It also doesn't suffice, right?
Yeah, that also doesn't.
And then 1 will be separate only. Now again you keep pointer on these two. Take these two arrays, 1, 3 and 2, 3.
Yeah.
So your first one, 1 doesn't suffices, right? I mean, I is on 1 and j is on your 2.
Okay. Okay. Like the, yeah, makes sense. And that doesn't, yeah, work. So then what do I, then I just do this.
Yeah, just merge 1, 2, 3. I mean, merge these two in a sorted way.
Oh, so how does this algorithm, so at this point, how is it working? So I understood the point that you did 1, 2 comparison. They didn't,
Yeah.
and then you bring them together. And like in merge sort, we have this, right? If whatever condition is satisfied, you merge them, then you move to the next one. So next time, are we comparing 3 with 3?
Yes, 3 with 3. You keep on moving the j. Like, let's say you keep, let's say, I mean, on 1 was satisfying.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for 6 years, I'm saying, let's say 1 was bigger than 3. 1 was
Yeah.
bigger than this. Then you keep that pointer 1 there itself, I, and just increment the j. And let's say you found that again 3 is lesser than your this. You again
Yeah.
go for that and keep on increasing the j till the point you hit that you have increased to a point where further you will not be able to satisfy the condition, right? So those many are the valid pairs for you.
Right. But can we take it step by step here? So we are
Yeah.
doing this 1, 2. So at this point, should I put like my next so
Next, you try to merge these two, like 1, 2, 3, 3. It will be this array will. I mean, when you merge these two arrays, so it will be 1, 2, 3, 3.
right, correct.
Yeah.
Would be 1, 2, 3
Oh, sorry.
going on. Oh. Right. So I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 3.
Now your next array is 1.
Yeah.
So 1 doesn't suffice with 1, right?
Correct.
But 2 is having 2 is satisfying your condition, right? Or no, it's not
No,
because
it's
it's
not.
yeah.
So
So
like,
2 is
so what's the next step? So when they don't suffice, they don't meet the condition, then I merge them.
merge them here.
And then now this is merged, right? There is no element here anymore. This list is done.
Yeah.
So now I just put these as is.
No. First you will have to compare. After that you will merge. Not at both simultaneously. You shouldn't do. Like first we count all the pairs. How many such pairs are there? Which can be like 1 was not fulfilling your condition. Even 2 is not fulfilling, right?
Yeah, but I'm thinking, right.
So whenever it's not matching, you increase your I. Whenever it's matching, you increase your J.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I see. So in this example, when it wasn't matching, I just increased I here. Yeah.
Yeah, even 3 and 3 was not matching. Once we found
No,
that
when 1 and 2 were not matching, at that point, I incremented my
J, sorry, yeah.
I, and then 3 comma 2 is also not matching.
Yeah, so you got none of the pairs over here. Now you just merge these two arrays.
Okay,
Yeah,
in a sorted way. Yeah,
in a sorted way.
right. So in this case also I'm saying 1 comma 1 doesn't match. Then I increment I, 2 comma 1 doesn't match. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then 3 comma 1 matches. So
Yeah, so one pair you got. I mean, you can take a global pair value, like
yeah,
pair and here, and again next 3 also matches with 1, right?
yeah.
So totally you got 2 pairs out of it,
Okay.
and you can just
Yeah.
finally.
There was no matching, then we'll just get a sorted array, but no match pairs.
Exactly, yeah.
I see. So the idea we kind of followed here was we tried to bubble the, well, not really bubble. Okay, that
Yeah.
kind
The idea is like, I mean, if it's matching, then you increase the pairs and keep on
Perfect.
increasing the. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking from even high level, right? From the given question to this point, what we followed was we can't play with the indexes because we want to check this condition, I less than j. So we didn't altered any indexes or sorted array in any way, but we followed merge sort, that kind of.
Approach, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like inversion count. We have more problems similar to this, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's almost based on the same approach.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So somebody wants to share the solution like code form? Okay.
I have the code, but it was not passing all the case. It was waiting for 113 case like that.
Oh, you
Like,
want to share?
no, no. If you have, you can share. I thought no one has, so
Oh.
I will share.
So I like on similar grounds, whatever we have discussed now. So is a normal merge sort what we do. So if your total length of array is less than 2, then just you return that array directly. We are calculating here the mid of the array, and up to mid, from starting to mid, we are passing as a left array, and from mid plus 1 to the end, we are passing at is a like a right array. And then I'm passing it to a merge function, and this is the merge function that I've made. So this is a z equal to 0. What I'm doing to the left array, I'm taking the element, I'm checking whether, like, let me annotate a little better then. So it's like, let's say array is here, one left array we had and one right array we are having. So we are keeping one pointer I over here and j, and as long as we find that I is satisfying that condition, this condition, so we'll keep on increasing the j, and once we find we have reached to a point where it is not satisfying, so you just include this into your final answer. Sorry, in your final answer that these many candidates you have seen for your answer. So this is what I keep on increasing the j, and once I find that no further either the array length is over or this further we can't match, so directly we are adding it to j, and after that I'm using a normal merge approach. So again initializing I to 0, j to 0, as long as I is less than left and j less than right, just whichever is lesser, you append them and increase the I, and other case like vice versa, like if it is what do you say, bigger, the other one is bigger, then you append that. Let me clear the drawings here and just calling. So any queries?
So
Yeah, go ahead.
what is the intuition behind this approach? How did you
Yeah,
get to this approach?
sure. It's I'll tell you. I've taken this array, like this 1 3 2 3 1, and after that I'm dividing it like to till the point you get the single element 1 3, like then you'll have 2, then you'll have 3, and then you'll have 1. So what I'll say, while merging, before merging these two, I'll check whether this ith element and this is J, whether it satisfies this condition or not. If it satisfies, then I got that pair. And once I get the pair, I'll merge it in a sorting order. So I'll have 1 and 3. Again, we'll perform same operation over here. We got 2 and 3. And again, this will be as it is. Then again, your I will be here and J will be here. You keep on doing this thing, and see how many valid pairs are there. And after once you found, you just add it to your, what do you say, the pairs, self dot pairs, and just merge them in a sorted way. And again, keep on doing till the point the entire, what do you say, again the entire array is sorted.
But I mean, I was asking, how did you get to this approach?
This one earlier I had
Okay.
solved inversion pair
Okay.
problem. So
Oh,
based
okay.
on that intuition, I got this.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like
Because it is very hard to come very intuitively.
Yeah, this is always the challenge with I feel, these hard problems.
it's like, I mean, if we go a lot of problems through a lot of
Yeah.
problems, then definitely we'll develop the pattern for that.
So one question here, Shashank, or for everyone here. When we were doing naive approach, right, we were trying to compare every element with, sort of every element next to it. So it was
Yeah.
like square. But
And
merge sort, we have kind of, can you do undo? If you can bring back your example, Shashank.
okay, sure.
Oh, yeah. So in this case, we compared 1 and 3, and then we compared 2 and 3. So we didn't really compare 3 and 2. I'm trying to see, I understand the merge sort here, but going from
N square to N, how it happened, right?
yeah, like, from algorithm perspective, I understand merge sort is n log n and all of that stuff. But what is it that we are saving here that's reducing the cost?
Yeah, it's like if you make a tree out of it, let's say you are given an array and you split it, right? And at every time you are having, so at every stage, at every level, total number of elements which you are having is N itself, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you split, even if you go at the last level also, each cell will have single element and total number of elements at this level will be N.
Sure.
So at every level, we are doing only N comparisons.
Right. Sure. I mean, it comes back to how merge sort complexity is, there. We have levels and every level is n.
Yeah, if somebody wants to say like word, I mean, maybe I might.
Yeah, no, I think it's just, it's fine.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Actually, there was a similar problem like without this 2 into nums of j condition. There, if we want to do a direct merge, then we can take the other part of the array. So I think it's little different in that problem. I mean, there was a similar problem, but only thing is nums of I has to be greater than nums of j. You need to find how many.
That is the pair problem. Based on that only problem. This is simply this extra
Yeah.
condition
So
added 2 times of this.
So that one was direct method. Maybe for that, if you got intuition, then that helps in this problem. I was saying.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashish. Okay. So anyone wants to share any other, or shall we next?
Shashank, one thing, like you are doing a linear search now, you can also do binary search in the reverse way, right? I mean, you are checking for num of left in left. How many of them are right or for greater than 2 into j, right?
Yeah.
But instead, if you can, yeah. So if you can, yeah, for every right element, do a binary search, like 2 into right element binary search in the left array for the seal or something. So
that was the approach we were discussing, right, in the beginning. Like if binary search, then it will still be n log n.
No, actually, you were in that case taking extra space and then applying binary search on the.
I'm talking about in this merge sort, in this
I
line.
got it. So you are telling that this is my left array and this is my right array. So using binary
Yeah.
search, you are trying to get that point
Oh,
where
Yeah,
it
ju-
after which it fails to satisfy, right?
like
Is
But
it
it's not sorted earlier, right? How
this
can they
left
apply
array is
binary search?
go ahead, right? Something better you annotate. I think it will be more clear.
so we have this left array and also right array. So right now you're taking the left element and seeing how many of them satisfy here in the right side, right?
Yes, yes.
So what I'm
That is
telling
line
is
number 14.
take the
Yeah,
right
14.
and this is already sorted. This left array is already sorted, right? So we take this element. Maybe it goes into second position, but what we want is how many of them are greater than 2 into, right? So so multiplied by 2 and do a binary search on this left list to find which one is greater than 2 into this element.
yeah, yeah.
We get this length in like binary search, and then we can insert it normally and go on for the next element like that.
Just to expedite the search. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to follow. Can you explain a little how, where is it, like where is left sorted on which line number?
No, like we were going from bottom to top, right? So when we were merging
Right.
these two arrays, the final array we were getting as sorted, right?
Right.
And we had this array, right? I mean, these two arrays we merged, we got this was sorted array. Now it's telling that you pick one element from here and multiply with 2, whatever number is there, and check, apply binary search on this sorted array to check which element is, I mean, it's sufficing that given condition. Is it, Dilip, or am I
Yeah,
missing?
yeah, see, yeah. So maybe I mean like you can reduce that linear loop into like log n of that left part. I tried that way, but it was failing for some case. I'm not sure completely about it.
Uh, and you're binary searching for all the elements.
Yeah,
No.
that again.
First seal element. So every element will satisfy that condition because it is a sorted array.
But for every
Right.
element, you would be using binary search, no? Take this element and apply binary search, right? So won't it be n log
Yeah.
n? Then that will increase
Yeah.
your complexity.
Okay. So I'm not sure how much your complex is, but okay, maybe that is like worse than yours.
My God, somebody. The Harshit
Also,
was saying
Shashank,
something. Yeah, go ahead.
on line number 13, like what is the complexity for this for and while loop?
It will be like, let's say at every stage, if you have k elements here, this is the left and this is the right element. Right element also k. So, I mean, we'll take one element here and keep on increasing the pointer. So k into k it should be kind of.
So won't it get n square in the last? Like when we are coming bottom up, then at the topmost level, won't it become n square eventually?
So, the top level. But at the top level, we'll have only one final array, right? You don't need to do extreme top. I'm
Sorry,
talking.
sorry, 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 come again.
I'm saying when you are at, let's say this is the previous level, we merge these two and we'll reach finally the top. This will have
Right.
only one array will be there. No other array will be there for
No,
it to
no.
come.
Even in that level, you get a right part which needs to be matched and which needs to be counted. At every level we match, right? Like every level
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have left, right, so we need to do that. Like what I said, binary search can reduce this k square to k log k. If it works.
Oh, that.
Yeah, because I'm not searching every other element. I'm just finding the elements which are in the left side which can satisfy the condition
Yeah.
with the binary search. So k log k, it should.
Yeah, I believe this one is n square into log n, and what Dilip was saying would be n log n into log n.
N log n into log n. Okay. So n log n square, right?
N log n square, because this part, this as we discussed, this line number 13 to line number 15, this would be n square.
Right.
And you are I mean, using the merge sort concept, we will be doing this log n times. So this boils down to n square into log n.
Okay.
Uh,
Like, I mean, for every element, these k elements I'll be visiting, right? For every element, this k I'll visit again for
Right.
next.
Let's
so it should be n square log
No,
n.
no, no. See, actually, what will happen when I find, let's say, this is my left array and this is my right array. When I find this element, I mean, is valid for these many elements, then definitely the next element of this, I don't need to do all these things because it's already a valid candidate. No, you got getting my point, right? See, these array is sorted, right?
okay.
So you took ith array is here and you found that till j, I mean, in this array till j, all the elements are satisfied. Now, when I move this, I don't need to again traverse this array from beginning because this element itself is satisfying all this condition. Then definitely the element which is bigger than this will definitely satisfy this. I don't need to visit this again.
But in the code you're doing that, right?
No, you're not doing it. He is just initializing j once only.
Yeah, only once I'm
Uh,
initializing.
So,
but
like a global
Shashank,
no.
worst case, you won't find any right side element which satisfies the condition. Then okay, so you're only doing it for one element. Okay, yeah,
One, yeah,
sorry.
I'm not repeating that again and again. I'm already
Yeah.
using the previous results. That is the
Oh,
advantage of merge sort I'm getting now.
okay, now I understood. I use for loop first and it gave TLE. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
So Shashank, just to validate my understanding, so if
Yeah.
the ith element in left array is
Okay.
sufficing this condition of 2 greater than nums of j, then are you saying that the next element in the left array would also be validating this condition?
Definitely, because see, this array is sorted, right? Let's say here 8 is here, and here 1, 2, 3 is there, and here 9 is here. So 8 is
Okay,
sufficing
got it.
all these conditions. I went J here. Now
Yeah.
definitely 9 will.
Okay. So for 8 we'll have 3 answers, right? 3 pairs.
3. For 9 again 3 it will be because for them it is satisfying. Definitely it will satisfy for a number bigger than this.
So
So
where
3
are you
value.
including the count for 9?
Uh, I mean, for every num elements, I'll be increasing running this loop. No, for every element in left, I'll run this while.
Okay, so for 8 you run till 3, right? You get j as 3.
Yeah, I got 3. I added it to my self dot pairs.
Right. Now you come to 9. Now what you do?
Now when I come to 9, so when I come to 9, I'm not initializing the j is here itself, right?
Right.
Right.
So
So
from
how
there
it,
I
again,
think
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
I think the overall complexity for this will be n log n only and not n square because this for and while loop is this is eventually O n only because he's not reinitializing J as you said.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good point. What Harshit
Right.
was saying. Hmm.
Because you just reevaluate the
Yeah, no,
statement only, right?
see,
Line number
Harshit is
16.
correct. See, when I went to here, what is j equal to 3? I got j equal to 3 first time, right? See,
Right,
this
right.
is 8, this is 9, and this is
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So for 8, you got already j as 3. So from 3 itself again, I'm starting. So already that value is again included in this, no,
Correct.
implicitly.
So basically you are adding 3 again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Now I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
now it's
overall,
pure O of n.
yeah, yeah. It looks like from code, like it should be n square, but digging deep will fetch us so often.
Yeah.
Okay. So shall we switch to next?
This is a good solution.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So let's go to next.
So, for the previous question,
Okay, okay, go ahead. Say.
for the previous question, I was trying out something with priority queue.
Okay.
I mean, it works for some test cases, but some test cases it's not working. I don't think there's a problem in the approach, but I'm not like if someone can help me with dealing with the edge cases.
So can you
It
explain
will
the
be a
approach?
problem, right?
Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
sure,
don't know
sure.
if I can share.
You want to share the screen?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Um, okay, so this is not completely working, but yeah, maybe someone can help.
Yeah, no
So
worries.
what I'm trying to do is um, so for every element, I'm just iterating through the array once, and for every element, I just put into the priority queue like all the previous elements. So say for example, I'm dealing with number 2 right now. In the like while iterating through this, and I put all these elements before that into priority queue and try to pop from the priority queue and see if the element is like satisfies the condition like that. If pq dot pick is greater like that and nums of I times 2, then increment my result like that. So I am maintaining the temp array because I'm just saving whatever number I popped so that I can push into the queue again, priority queue again. So for example, I'm currently working on like currently I'm at element 3. I pushed all these elements, uh, and then yeah, I mean in the priority queue, all these elements are there, and none of them follow satisfy the condition. So my temp will be empty. But after that, I insert the current element, which is 3, into the priority queue, and then now this won't be happening. But yeah, and then next time when I am at 1, all these elements will be in the priority queue, and then 3 will be popped, and it will satisfy the first 3 will be popped. It satisfies the condition. Then second 3 will be popped. It satisfies the condition, and then my temp will have like 3 and 3, and then I add both the threes again to the priority queue just to make sure all the previous elements occur in the priority queue.
So once you popped the element and you found that those three were fulfilling your condition, so what was the reason of again putting it inside the queue?
Uh, because for like in this current example one, for the last one, we will get like we will get the output 2 for 3 1 and the another 3 1, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Suppose there is another element like maybe 4 after the last element 1.
yeah.
Then
Oh,
for that 4, I want all these element in queue again.
okay, yeah, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I pop the element 3 here, right? In this line. So that's why I'm just putting it back into the queue. Just I'm saving that okay, I popped this again, put them in queue so that I don't have to populate the queue again entirely.
So the priority queue, is it a min heap or a max heap?
This is max heap. I'm doing in reverse order.
Complexity would be n square log n, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, yeah. But this is not happening for the integer dot min value or like that. So for some case like this,
Bigger case, bigger integers. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, so maybe this one I'll share. So this test case, it has like integer dot min values and max values. So maybe it's trying to do like times 2. So integer dot min value times 2 is greater. So not able to understand these cases.
Did you try it with long or something else?
Yeah, I mean, isn't it giving overflow?
It's what? Yeah, I can try using long.
Because already you have dart extreme elements in the int, and you are dividing or multiplying with 2, so it will cross the integer range, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll overflow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
instead of
can.
dividing by 2, you can try, instead of multiplying by 2, you can try the peak value divided by 2. So one is that.
You
Oh,
will
okay.
Dividing also for a very left extreme, like negative extreme number will decrease and go out, right?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't think so.
No. So
No, it
what
won't.
will happen if, for example, if I try to multiply integer dot min value by 2, what happens? Like I'll change it to what you are saying, like long or divide by 2. But just I want to know.
I think
Or I
it's
don't know
just
whether
overflow.
Java has nullable integers. Like in C Sharp, we have nullable integers. I would use a nullable integer to specify that there is no value right now. So you can
Okay.
assign nullable current max as null to start with. So you're starting with, and whenever it is null means there's no value.
Okay. 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 Yeah.
Maybe you can quickly try with divide by 2 and see if it works.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me see. Um. Um. So this should be like greater than.
I think nums of I should be divided by 2, right?
So yes, the condition is like this: nums of I times 2. So
Not
it's
right.
times 2, divided by. Is it like greater than equal?
No, just greater than.
No, this is not even doing the.
Yeah, the problem would be now that 3 divided by 2 is actually 1. So, and
Yeah.
not 1.5. Yeah, this one works.
Yeah, 3 divided by 2 is 1. So what? That's why I'm saying greater than. Should I try?
Even if you try greater than equal to, then like the scenarios where it is just 2, it will not.
Because 2 is all, then 2 also satisfies the condition.
Yeah, then 2 will also start satisfying.
Maybe I can try with the floating points with the greater than or like divided by 2. Like the take this value into the floating point number and then doing the exact comparison like that with less
Or
just
when we
later.
do divide by 2, if we take a ceiling,
Yeah, yeah. Uh, See, like that you're saying?
yeah, that I was thinking whether this will, at least in this case, I think it will solve the problem, but whether it will solve the other scenarios or not, I don't know.
And actually, floor, I think you're saying.
You try. Let's see.
It's okay.
At this
I'll try
point,
it.
we are just guessing. I think we'll have to, like, these are the thought processes I would think you should think about and think on
Yeah.
a
Maybe
pen and paper what it really is.
you can post in Discord, like, so that somebody can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, but it's a
Okay.
good, like, nice dimension of thought, like using a priority
Yeah.
queue and then.
Yeah. 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 But your solution was less complex than this, right?
Yeah, it's because, like, I mean, just of heap, it is taking extra space, right? For every element, you would be using log n, and then n square elements would be there. So n square log n.
No, actually, sorry. There are only n elements. So if, for every element, we are checking
But
log n
yeah,
times.
but again, you are pushing the elements, whatever you have popped ones, right?
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, they can go to n. They can go to n minus 1, but
One.
yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You share in Discord, like, there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very similar to what Dippy was explaining, right?
Exactly. Somewhat. Like, she was creating pairs extra, and then.
the sorting one, because priority queue is also helping in the sorting part.
Yeah. She was.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Thanks.
can do like and so.
Yeah, so our next question is like maximal square. So given a 2D binary matrix which has filled with zeros and ones, and you have to find the largest square containing ones and return its area. So this is that red one is the, what do you say, largest max square that you can get filled with ones. It's, so how to proceed here?
I had a recursive approach towards it initially.
Okay, share, like, let's go with
Yeah.
your approach. You want to share this?
So, yeah, just give me a second. Mm, yeah, I can share.
Okay.
Mm. Is it visible?
Yeah.
I had this sort of approach, but I attempted this question a long time ago, so I'm sorry if
Can you
I'm
increase
not
the
able to
font?
follow. Sure, sure.
Yeah, better.
So this is no, yeah. So this is my starting. Like this is my entry point. I'm just checking if row is zero, column is zero. If row is one, if row is only one, then the answer will be one. If column is only one, then answer will be one. Otherwise, I am creating this DP table, and I'm just calling this a recur function. This is my initial matrix. This is my maximum answer. This is my DP. So what I'm getting in this max recur is, sorry, in this recur function is, I'm calling recursion on my left side, on my up. So let's say if I'm on this, if you can see on the example on the left side, if I'm on this zero, so I'll be calling DP on this, and on this. And from these three, what I'm getting is their height and their width. So for example, um I'll just take a, so this is one, this is one, this is one, 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 one. So when I'm at this, I'm calling recursion on this. This will return me something. This will return me something, and this will return me something. So what these return is the height and the width. So this is the height and their width. Similarly, this will return height and width. So and this will also height and width. So what is height and width is? So height is basically how many consecutive ones are above me. So this will have height 1, and this will have height 0. This will have height 0. This will have height 1. And width is how many consecutive ones I have on the left, on my left side. So this will have 1, and this will have 0. So and this will also return me 0, 0, right? Because height and width both are 0 for this. So when I'm at this, I know that this has height 1, 1. This has height 1, 0, height and width. This is as height and width as 0, 1, and this has height and width as 0, 0. Yeah. So this is my pair of int and int, but I'm returning. And now I'm checking if my grid is not 0. Basically, if my current index is also 1, then I'm getting the width, like the minimum width, which is up left. So if we go back to here, okay. Yeah, up left and left first. So my up left is this. This is my up left, and this is my left. I'm comparing the values returned by them. So I'll pick the minimum of them. And similarly, I'll for width and similarly for height.
So what's the idea of picking minimum?
The idea is that let's say here there had been 0 above this, and here 1, and here 0, and let's say here again 0, and here again 0. So I'm picking 1 because the maximum height that I can attain is maximum square can be of height this, right, of size 2, because this is 0.
Yeah.
Whereas the height this will return is 2. So I cannot take that. That is why I'm picking the minimum of height and width.
Yeah. Minimum of these three you're taking and adding one to it, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So pick the minimum of these and add 1 to it. So my current answer will be minimum of width into width or height into height, whatever it is, right? Because it's a square.
Yeah.
So then I am just updating max answer as maximum of the previous max answer or the current answer, which is this only. And then I'm updating my x length and y length as height and width. So height and width are eventually the minimum that I got from my parent, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. From the top right.
Then I'm exactly. And then I'm setting the DP with my x length or y length, x length and y length, sorry, which is width and height respectively. So my x length is width, and the y length is height. Yeah. So since this max answer I'm passing is by reference, so eventually I'll get my answer in this max answer and I'll return it. Yeah. So this was my initial DP approach, sorry, recursive approach, which I use memoization.
It's a bottom up, right? X length.
I'm
Top
not
down.
sure what do.
Top.
Top down.
Ronnie,
Top
which,
down.
How, I mean, I get confused between top down and bottom up. So I'm going from n-1 towards 0. So what does it have?
So if you memoize, I take that as a top down.
Okay.
And if it's the iterative one, then that's bottom up.
Yeah,
I think that's
bottom.
So, okay. So here I'm using memoization.
Yeah.
But am I actually making benefit of it? Yeah. So if DP exists, then I am returning that. So yeah, I'm using memoization.
Yeah.
But this is like a pretty long approach. I mean,
Yeah. I have a lesser complicated one. It's on the same lines, but yeah, I've used the iterative one.
oh, okay. Can you share?
Here overall it will be n square only, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right. It'll square only. Harsh, can you share your approach?
Thanks, Ramesh.
Am I visible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm doing exactly what Ronnie was doing, but it's about bottoms up. So I'm trying to store the side of the square possible sitting at a particular cell.
Can you just annotate diagram like little bit, not big, only for few lines.
So basically, I'm in my DP array. Let's try to make a square first. So at particular, so I'll start with my base case first. Okay. So in this DP array, I'm trying to store the side of the square, which can be formed with the this what do you call this? The bottom right corner as the ending cell of the square.
Okay.
So for the base case, it would be 1, 1, 1 and 0, and again 1 here
1
and 1 here. So now coming to this cell is 1, right, in my original array. Now I try to form a square, which would be something like this. So as Ronnie did it, I'm taking the minimum of these three variables, dp of I minus 1, j minus 1, this and this. So that would be 1 here. And I first check whether that particular cell is 1 or not, because only then it can form a square of ones, like this condition. Line number 27.
27. Okay. So you are checking if that element, next element is 1, then you are taking minimum of them and adding 1 to it.
Right. So minimum here would be 1 and 1 plus 1. So it would be 2 here. So this shows that ending at this cell, I mean with the bottom right corner as this cell, I can form a square of side 2.
Yeah.
The largest one, the largest possible. Now going to
Please
this
repeat
cell.
how you got to 2.
Okay.
Sorry.
So are you clear with the base case, this part?
If you can repeat one more time, I actually didn't get the like why you drew it 3 ones on the left side and 3 ones.
Okay. So this is the original array we have. 1 1 1 0 1 1 1 0 and 4 times 1.
Right.
So so initially I try to fill my first row and first column.
Okay.
So first row is I'm filling it here. So if it's 1, then I'm putting it 1. So basically the logic behind this is that this represents a square of side 1, like this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just putting in my DP array, like at this position 0 of I is 1 if the element is 1.
Got it.
Check it. And similarly I do for the columns. This part from line number 18 to line number 23, sorry.
Okay, so this is how we initialize the DP array, that the anything which is 1 can make a square which has only one element in it.
Right.
Got it.
Square of side 1. Okay. Now coming to the this computation. Now if this element is 1, and if it's 1, then I check these three things. This one, and this one.
Got it. All three have to be 1.
All three have to be 1, right? So I'm trying to use the answers obtained from these three cells.
Mm-hmm.
On this line number 28. So if this is 1, then I take the minimum of these three, because I have to form a square. So square would be the side of that square would be the minimum of the sides of these three. So I take the minimum and then I add 1. So in this case, like the way I filled this as 2, because this was 1, this thing was 1, this thing was also 1, and this thing was also 1. So minimum of these three comes out to be 1, and then I add 1. So I get this as 2.
Got it.
So similarly, this would also be 2. And
Right.
this would be 0, because the element is 0 itself. Now for this cell, this would also be 2. Now coming to this this particular cell, these three adjacents are 2, and this cell is 1. So I do this minimum of this and plus 1. So this turns out to be 3. And again, this would be 1, because the minimum of this, and this would be 0. So 0 plus 1 would be 1. So this is how I'm filling my DP array.
Got it.
Now coming to the answer, we need the area, right? So
Yeah.
basically I'm just doing this, a maximum of this dimension into dimension.
Right.
So that would give me 9
9.
in this case.
Understanding that dp of ij represents the minimum height or width till that point was a little tricky for me earlier.
Okay, so I've done a lot of questions using this logic only. We had one question,
Yeah.
like similar question, couple of days back also.
Which
Yeah,
question
on this.
is that? Like that will be useful to also solve along with
I
it.
don't remember the question. Do you remember the question, Shashank?
No, but we had a few days back itself, 1 or 2 days. Like
Okay,
the
I'll
Jack.
scroll through.
If you see the lead code previous to previous days, you get it. Or if I get, I'll share it.
Maximum
I
sub
think
square. Something.
Yeah, yeah.
that's number of squares. I think count.
Ankita shared counting squares. It was like
Yeah.
Something like that.
But this is total. The square
Go
is
ahead.
coming as 9. The answer should have been 4, right? So how do you convert to that?
So how 4?
Yeah,
No,
like
yes,
because
it
this
is
will
three
be
matrix.
giving.
That's why the answer is 9. There the matrix size is 4.
Oh yes, yes. In this
Yeah,
case,
yeah, yeah.
the area is 9. Correct. I was.
Yeah, both matrices are different. Yeah,
True.
yeah,
Thank you. This is cool. Actually, this is pretty
yeah.
nice
It's a nice one.
and very, very well explained.
Yeah, that's true. And what about the time complexity? So your
So time complexity would be m into n. Like these two loops
I
we
mean,
are going through. So number of rows
We
into
can
number
take.
of columns.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Any questions on this?
Even in Ronnie's recursion case, we are not optimizing anything on the space, right?
He's memoizing because of that.
Yeah, it takes the same n into space.
M into any also it will be also, I think.
My n square, but actually I'm making 3 calls, right?
Yeah. Here also I'm using 3 states.
Right.
In the solution, they say like we are only taking the upper row for every row. We are only considering the levels of before row, so we don't need to store the whole
Yeah,
matrix.
that could be done.
Yeah, we can use it
Just base.
1D DP.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, that 1D DP is very difficult to understand later.
Yeah, and within the time frame, I think it's a bit difficult to come up with that. I mean, that's my experience.
Yeah. Do people ask, like just with people who have experience over here, are these questions asked very frequently, DP questions, or are DP questions rare? In my career, I've seen very rare DP questions. But
No, these are popular. I mean, if not exactly this, but somewhat it will form the base of some bigger question. Like it will, if you solve this, it will lead you to that point that you can accomplish the harder one. But it's a very like standard problem. This maximal square, you'll find variations of it.
like people do see them in real interviews.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, there is a rectangle also. Somebody is saying one rectangle question is there, which you stack.
Yeah, Kadans one, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly.
I think
See,
in
this.
general, I feel like this DP approach in general needs practice, even if you come up with the idea, like to kind of put it out in code and be very clear about it. So.
True.
Yeah.
I don't think this approach will work for rectangle.
Stack, I think we are using there. I mean,
In the maximal rectangle, I use that what is called the Platonic stack or something where
Yeah,
you keep
this
the.
won't work. I think it's not a symmetric shape. No?
Yeah, because we can't take minimum of 3. It can be like something.
I think this uses that concept of histogram somewhere.
Yes, a max histogram area. Like this is just a like layer by layer. You keep
Right.
getting the area of the histogram.
Yeah. Like this is one bar and this is the other bar. Right. Okay, let's move on.
thanks, Arshit.
Yeah.
So let's move to next then. So next is the binary prefix divisible by 5. So an array of zeros and ones are given. Consider Ni the ith subarray from a of 0 to a of I interpreted as a binary number from most significant bit to the least significant bit. You're supposed to return a list of Boolean answer where answer of I is true if and only if that particular number is divisible by 5. So the possible subarrays that you can get out of this is your 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, and converting to decimal you'll get 0, 1, 3 in base 10. Your decimal itself is base 10 here, and out of this only this is the number which is divisible by 5. So corresponding to this we are returning true, and for rest of them we are false. And same goes here if you convert and do it, and so on. So yeah, and regarding the constraints, length will be less than equal to 30k, and at least you'll have one element, and your array will be binary in nature. Yeah. So how do we proceed here?
Shashank, one question before.
Yeah.
So the constraints or like length of the array could be like 3 into 10 to the power 4, right?
Yeah, 3 into 10 is the 4.
So like we are converting the whole array into a binary. So so that means in decimal number which has binary numbers up to 3 into 10 to the power 4. How does like generally it signifies, like what type of data type can be?
We won't be able to store that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how can we, if we consider that way, how should we solve it? We generally like we divide it, multiply by 2, but if we consider, if I say if I have a length of 30,000, like this 3 into 10 to the power 4, and if I convert that to binary, like decimal, then that shouldn't work, right?
Yeah, so that number would be 2 to the power 31, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
655 or something like that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So are you're asking that how do we store that number?
Sorry.
So
I
you
didn't
are
get
asking
clearly the question. Like,
how
can you
we store that number?
Yeah, we couldn't store that in any type, right?
Right, it's not possible to store that, I think.
Then this problem couldn't be solved. We shouldn't be able to solve it.
I think that is why this problem, I think, uses modulo, concept of modulo.
Well, just one question there. When we said 2 to the power, what?
31?
2 to the power 31, right? So,
Yeah.
like, that is like talking about 32-bit, right?
Yeah, either bit can be 0 or 1. 2 raised to the 32 it should be, I think.
So I said 2 to the power 30,000.
Yeah, that's confused. Like, it should be 2 to the 30,000, or I mean, whatever is the length. Okay.
Yeah. All ones, that case.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So what would be the approach here?
So we keep on forming that number.
Okay.
Like that decimal number by multiplying that number with 2 and adding our current bit. So do you want me to write this down somewhere?
Yeah, sure. You want to write and you want to share the screen?
Okay, I can share this one.
Okay. But as Dilip was saying, we can't store that. Like, it will be then if you convert it to.
I think for this problem they are discarding the extra bits, I think.
Okay. Because I did
I am
like converting to decimal number and checking if it is divisible by 5.
Yeah, even I did the same way. That's why I couldn't understand how.
Yeah, so okay, so let's take an example here. 0, 1, 1 we have, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to form the number. So initially this represents the number. So initially this is a of 0. So here it is just 0. So sum is 0 here. Now coming in the loop, I'm doing this thing. So I'll write this down first here. Modulo part might be a bit confusing. So this is how I'm forming that number. So when I'm at this position 1, so what I'm doing is my older sum into 2 plus this bit. So this is 1, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
this basically represents the number 1, right?
0, 1. Yeah.
Right. So now taking this forward, my sum is 1 now. Now when I reach onto this bit, my sum is going to be sum which is 1 into 2 plus 1. So this would be 3, right? So this is how I'm forming the number. So as Dilip pointed out, this part sum into 2 would lead to an overflow. For example,
Yeah.
I have an array of size this much, 30,000. And so if there are 30,000 once, then basically my number would be 2 to the power 30,000. So that I cannot store that anywhere. So this is where we have to use the power of modulo. So in this expression, and we have to find whether that number is divisible by 5 or not, right? So we
Yeah.
are doing that modulo part here.
But
This one.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't use modulo, but it passed all the test cases. Like,
I think it's because Python's capability.
okay, yeah, maybe.
Okay. So
One thing what I was thinking, I also did same approach, but I thought that let's say 5 will have remainder 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So you can create a set of 4 values and check if the subarray which you are forming out of the bits, if it falls in any of this, then return false. Did you get right? What I
yeah, we have 4 options, right? That's what you're
yeah,
saying.
4
5
options. Because
I didn't get that one. Can you please repeat, Shashank?
Can we just finish this one because I had a question on this and then take up your Shashank?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
I was just confused. Actually, in my solution, I'm running into some issue even with this one. So yeah.
Okay, so this is the expression I'm using.
Right.
Now this expression can be broken down further to prevent overflow. So we know this property, right? A into B modulo of something. This is same as A modulo X into B modulo
X.
outside modulo.
And whole modulo, right?
Right.
Yeah, whole modulo should work.
And whole modulo. Yeah, so I'm just using that, and similar one is for the addition also. So that's how modulo is being used there. So I'm doing this part, sum modulo 5. 2 modulo 5 I can void because it's a constant number, and this is the outside modulo. So this takes care of this part. Now for this, I'm doing this a of 5 modulo 5, and again I'm doing this here. I could have removed this and done this here also, but it's the same thing.
Also, you can skip AI modulo 5, right?
Yeah, right. That's
Harshit,
yeah.
did you try it without modulo, like without modulo 5?
I did not try that, but I was like initially, just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting runtime error for that without this usage of property.
Okay, yeah.
A very important property that's like A modulo. In rolling hash also we use the same, follow the same pattern, right? A plus B mod X.
Yeah. In one of our sessions, somebody discussed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so this is.
Yeah, so here like often only, right? One time you are going to the array.
Often.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think Dippy was saying something. She had some doubt.
Yeah, Dippy was saying something.
Yeah, so possibly something I was messing up here. Can I quickly bring up my solution? Right, so you guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like similar to what was explained here. So I'm doing this, and I think the point I was missing was like this will go off the limit, kind of, right? I'm not doing that modulo here. So this thing gives me errors. Like the solution runs, but it gives me wrong answer. And then I tried to print the value. I took it as long, so I wasn't expecting it to overflow. But I see it will, and I think it will still be the issue. And then I got confused here. Like in one of the solutions, they were mentioning I have to update the value of my sum. Like this is basically alluding to sum. I have to update it to modulo, and I really didn't get that point. But what, I don't know who was presenting right now. Yeah, so like, are we saying that I should kind of split this up in the sense I should take this modulo and
So Dippy, does it work if you uncomment line number 19? Does the code
yeah,
work?
it works. Yeah, it works if I uncomment this. Was quite confused.
So what do you think? What do you think is going on here?
Yeah, so initially I thought that I'm getting incorrect, like, result. So maybe this is like, overflowing. Like initially,
It is overflowing, right? When you
Right.
do a bin test equivalent multiplied by 2 and you're going over the long limit, whatever that limit is, like you, since
Yeah.
the given input is supposed to be what 30,000 or something, there is
Correct.
absolutely no way you can store it in any
Yeah.
normal integer form. So
Correct.
the thing is that like the fun stuff is that each number, right, each digit or each letter, or wherever you want to cut the prefix, right, if the prefix multiplied by 2 plus the next number, if that is a multiple of 5, then every other element after that would be a multiple of 5, correct? And the same also holds good in reverse. If it's not a multiple of 5, then essentially you can just do a mod 5 and you can get the remainder, because that remainder is the one that will give you the value.
Right.
No.
Can you repeat this part, Vivek? Why are we like subtracting 5?
Not subtracting.
Oh, no, not subtracting, but yeah, doing this thing.
See, it's a simple math concept, right? So take any number can be expressed as like, a sum of two numbers, where of the form like essentially it's a times 5 plus b, right? You can do that, correct?
Yeah.
And some a, some b, right? And that's essentially the quotient multiplied by 5, and the remainder is what happens. So now the thing is that the question is, find a value where the b is 0.
Okay.
Okay. And that is exactly what's happening in line number 16, right? When you said bin dec equivalent of this, right? You've done that. Now, actually what you can do is in the else, line number 19, you could just say, instead of just saying just addition to saying that, you could just say that bin dec equivalent is equal to that modulus. And actually you can not there, but can you do that in line number 15, 16? This whole setup, right?
Like here, right?
Move line 22 to line 16.
Right.
And then check if bin dec equivalent equal to 0. Don't do the modulus second time. Right. So what you're doing at this point of time is that you are replacing the value, the number itself, with b. Right. Given any number n, you can replace n with n can be expressed in the form of a times 5 plus b. And then now what you've done is you've replaced the n with b itself at this point of time.
Yes.
Now the thing is that what you'd notice is that if b is 0 at that point of time is only when that particular entire number is divisible by 5. Now the fun part of it is that think of it as like every time you go through this loop, right? Imagine it was like, a1, b1, a2, b2, and so on, and right? Think of it that way. Now, if you did it that way, you would actually recognize that given that you're doing a modulus 5 in line number 16, the a part of it is no longer relevant because you know that a times 5 is a multiple of 5 for sure. Right. So this would work for all numbers. Like if you want to do it by divisible by 6, divisible by 9, divisible by whatever, you should be able to use the same technique. Now, without overflows.
Yeah, we're kind of reinitializing this value.
Yeah, basically we are reducing this, right? So that it.
Yeah.
Like 5 is a little weird, but think of it as how would you do it if it's like a multiple of 10, right? 10 is the easy one for us to understand. If the last digit is 0, then it's 10. Right? So what you will do is for any binary decimal equivalent that you think of, so you got like 7, and 7 is not a multiple of 10, obviously. So you can just take the 7. Next iteration, it becomes like, you're looking at 7 times 2, which is 14, plus, let's assume that there was a bit, and that made it 15, right? Now, is this divisible by 10? The answer is no. So if 15 is not divisible by 10, then in the next iteration, when you're multiplying it by before you multiply by 2, whatever the answer comes, the same answer will also hold good for 5. Because you can represent that 15 as a 10 plus 5, and anything that you do to that 10, because like 10 multiplied by 2 becomes 20, that will be a multiple of 10 anyway. So you can always ignore that and move on. So that's why Dippy, the 15, line 15, the reduction is added primarily for that reason.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had it.